I'm Dr. M. Welcome to VMC. I'm thrilled to have you join me for a discussion where we cover xylitol. Stick around as I equip you with the knowledge you need to safeguard your canine companions. Join me. You'll learn something today. Xylitol is a sugar-based alcohol that is used to sweeten a whole bunch of things. Anything that's labeled sugar-free might have xylitol in it. It could also be in things like toothpaste, mouthwashes, gum, baked goods, candies, peanut butter, the list goes on. Even trickier, xylitol can also be found in some things like sunscreens and medications, chewable vitamins, some supplements. Xylitol might also be named Birch Sugar, so you need to also look for that name in labels when you are checking them. And it offers about 40% of the calories of regular sugar with the same amount of sweetness, which is what makes it so popular. Now, it's important to know that xylitol does not seem to negatively affect our cats. So if your cat takes a liquid medication that is sweetened, often there will be xylitol in there, and that's perfectly okay for them. However, this is absolutely not okay for our dogs. So what exactly does xylitol do to our dogs? Unfortunately, the dog's pancreas sees xylitol and it will release 3 to 7 times the amount of insulin that it would for the same amount of regular sugar. This results in a rapid dose-dependent hypoglycemia. So if your dog unfortunately ingests xylitol, this is an emergency. You need to bring the packaging of whatever it is your dog ingested with you and get to an emergency clinic immediately. Some dogs will experience profound hypoglycemia in as little as 30 minutes. The speed at which the dog experiences symptoms does depend on precisely which product they've ingested. Clinical symptoms of hypoglycemia are vomiting, weakness, ataxia, seizures, coma. Unfortunately, death is included in here as well. Something that we don't quite fully understand is that sometimes xylitol ingestion in dogs will also damage their liver. Signs of liver injury might not show up for 24 to 48 hours after ingestion. You might see depression, icterus, you might also end up having issues with blood clotting, and you may also have vomiting, lack of appetite, those sorts of symptoms. If we don't know exactly what the dog ended up eating or doing, then it may take additional testing and time in order to rule out the other potential causes for these symptoms before we would land on treating for something like xylitol. What absolutely must happen is that the dog needs to be hospitalized. They need to be started on IV fluids so that we can give them dextrose, i.e. sugar, to replace the hypoglycemia as they start to experience it. This will mean repeated blood work panels to track how the blood glucose is doing, and also because we need to monitor liver values and some other things over a couple of days. The blood glucose will need to be measured at least every 1 to 2 hours for at least 12 hours. And the liver values need to be checked at least once a day for at least 3 days. Depending on how your dog ends up doing, it may end up needing to be longer for either or both of those, and you would need to continue to check blood glucose levels until the dog is at a point where they can maintain their own blood glucose without being on dextrose anymore. Sometimes we may also start some hepatoprotectants. It's unknown how efficacious those are, so that may or may not be part of your veterinarian's plan. Treatment of clotting problems or other signs of liver damage will need to be treated symptomatically in the vet clinic. So what sort of prognosis can you expect if your dog ingests xylitol? It will depend on the dose that they've ingested, but it also depends on how quickly they can get treatment. If it is a case where they have an uncomplicated hypoglycemia, those dogs generally recover and do really well. Even dogs that have mild liver changes, often those will resolve over a number of days, and those dogs also tend to do well. Unfortunately, there are going to be some dogs that have severely damaged livers. In those cases, prognosis is a lot more guarded. Unfortunately, there will also be some dogs that ingest a dose or a product that gets xylitol into their system so quickly that they just become so severely hypoglycemic so fast that they end up not surviving. And these sorts of deaths can occur incredibly rapidly, like within an hour. So of course, your next question is going to be, well, how much is dangerous? As little as 0.075 grams of xylitol per kilogram of body weight can cause significant symptoms. So for example, there are some pieces of chewing gum that might have 0.3 grams of xylitol in them. This would be enough to make a small dog quite sick. Because of how little can affect our dogs, I would recommend that you check labels of food that you bring into your home to see if it has xylitol or not. If it does, I would be storing that incredibly carefully, well out of reach of the dog, because of course they are able to chew through containers and cartons and bags, and they will get into things and eat them if they think it tastes delicious. And because xylitol can negatively infect their blood glucose so quickly, we really want to prevent our dogs ingesting xylitol. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. If you have an item or ingredient or medication that you would like me to cover as far as how it relates to our pets, please comment that down below. I do love to interact with you in the comments, and that's why I highlight a new comment every week. I read all of them. Thank you so very much for joining me today. I hope your weekend is truly fantastic. I put up a new video most Fridays, so I'll see you in the next one. My cat hasn't joined me today, but my dog has.